We're live on YouTube, going live on the podcast in 3, 2, 1. Diary of a Trans Woman is brought to you by all the fine folks over at patreon.com. If you want to learn more about how this show comes to be, and you can be a part of making it come to be if you would like to, because those words make sense, head on over to patreon.com/diary of a trans woman. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is Diary of a Trans Woman. This is episode 75, and it is a lovely August 3rd. It's been a good time. It's been a fun week. We are back. I am joined, just as we are every week for the past couple months, by my BFF and CHI, EJ. How you doing?
Hey, Abby. I'm all right. You good?
Cool.
You good, Abby?
I'm doing good. Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a fun episode. We have somebody that EJ kind of brought to our attention and has wanted to have on for a while. I am super excited to have Dahlia St. Knives on the show. Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm doing great.
We're all right.
Awesome.
So, Dahlia, go ahead and introduce yourself. Like, what do you do? Who are you?
Sure. I am a poet and published author. My most recent book, named Lemur, debuted on Amazon this year. Debuted actually as one of the #1 new releases in gay and lesbian poetry when it came out. And it's been doing pretty well. I actually just did a reading for it last night, actually. So
Nice.
it's been fun.
Yeah, you said you were the only Jew at that church, was it?
I was, yes, I was the only Jew at that church, and it was very awkward because there were like Christian rappers performing, and one of the lyrics was like, "If you don't accept Jesus, your soul is rotten." And I'm like, what if I killed Jesus? Like, I don't know. Am I extra rotten for that?
Was it supposed to be a Christian gathering or just a gathering of what were...
Well, it was at a church, so I guess it was bound to happen. But most of it wasn't Christian, but there were definitely like a lot of Christian performers there, and it was very odd.
Huh. But as far as like your reading, how that went well and everything?
Yeah, it was cool. I was the last one to perform. Got a really nice ovation. It was really nice to be able to talk to like a crowd that's a lot different from what I've read in front of before. My most recent reading before that was in Chicago at a bookstore, and there was like I want to say like maybe like 100 people there, and mostly white, well-read people who tend to read poetry a lot. But this time I read it at a church in the scary part of Omaha, Nebraska, and it was different, but it was cool. It was a good experience.
Nice.
Wouldn't think it would be as receptive in Nebraska, but an ovation, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect people to like me either, but hey.
It's weird, we're everywhere.
We are.
So I'll confess, I don't know a lot of people who are super into poetry or written word or that kind of thing. I have plenty of friends who read a crap ton of books, but as far as poetry goes, I don't know a lot of people who are necessarily into that. How did you find yourself being drawn to writing poetry?
I actually was drawn to it when I was in elementary school, actually. I've always been a writer. I've been writing short stories since I was in the 3rd grade. And around the 5th grade or so, I started experimenting with poetry, and it was awful. And I don't know why anyone kept encouraging me all those years, because it was really bad, especially in high school. I won poetry awards. I got published in journals and newspapers, and for the life of me, I don't understand why, because it was trash, but I'm still here. And shortly after I realized, that I was a woman and I wanted to start transitioning, I decided to actually pursue poetry professionally. And here I am.
Nice. Well, I mean, I am super. I mean, EJ, you got the book. I mean, what do you think of it so far?
I quite like it. I mean, it as I've gone through it, it actually flashed me back when I was in high school. I remember I was in creative writing in my senior year, and I wrote this really obvious poem that was just like, "I'm trans," and just kind of trying to like whisper it to the whole. It's just like, oh yeah, to change who I am would be like changing my gender. It's just like, not that would be so bad. So I forgot all about that. I did it so that it was like in the shape of like the little like women's room silhouette. So it was.
Oh my god.
Oh
So,
wow!
in terms of bad like high school poetry, I think mine is probably the worst.
It's significant. It definitely signaled something.
Yeah, I was just like, I told someone about it, just like dropping these little hints, and it's like, somebody say something. Um, so, so I mean, I guess as you've been like doing this throughout your entire life, did that help you discover that you're a woman? Just in the process of writing.
Poeting. That's a new one. I actually don't know if it did, but for whatever reason, after I kind of realized I was a woman, I really dove into poetry to like, I don't know, express my feelings. And I don't know, because like I had always been told that like femininity was like a bad thing, and I was always punished for that as I was growing up. And poetry is considered a feminine thing. So I didn't really throw myself into it until after I realized I was a girl, and I was just like, okay, this is something I'm actually allowed to do and be good at. So
it's amazing how taboos get lifted when you come out.
Right, exactly, like everything.
Yeah, as I've been reading, I mean, you can feel it, in a lot of the work. I mean, a lot of it's about, there's stuff about gender here. There's also stuff about, relationships. I mean, what was the genesis for Lemur or Lemur? I'm gonna say Lemur. I always have it like Lemur in my process, and you said Lemur, and now I'm like, now I gotta fix it. But what was your writing process? I think I read that you got through about a third of it in one session. Did you say?
I did. I wrote about a third of it in one session after eating an incredibly strong edible. Like this shit had me on my ass. I think it was actually high for about 36 hours. It was good shit.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I sat there for like, I think it was probably half an hour, but it felt like maybe like 12 weeks or whatever. And then I wrote like a third of the book. The rest of it was really just, me moving to Chicago, and that kind of coincided with me like really exploring my femininity and meeting a lot of people like me. So it was basically just about that, and kind of like how I kind of like fit all of my weird, awkward teenage years into 1 year in Chicago in my mid-20s. So it was a fun time.
Now, where did you wind up growing up? Like, was it in a pretty urban area, or?
Actually, it was. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is about an hour and a half north of Chicago.
Mhm.
Couldn't be any more different, though, honestly. I mean, Chicago is huge and sprawling, incredibly diverse, and Milwaukee, it's definitely a big urban area, but it's also extremely segregated as well. It's actually the most segregated city in the entire nation. And it's also got like a bit of a small town feel to it as well. So it was like a totally different experience.
Yeah, you think of, I mean, big cities, and Milwaukee is not something that pops onto a lot of people's radar. I mean, like, was one of the big things for me when in discovering myself was definitely, I mean, geez, I grew up in a tiny town up in northern Michigan, and I moved down to a college outside of Toledo, Ohio, and that was where I found like, oh, this whole like trans, gay, lesbian, LGBT group is actually a thing. It's not just like a rare spattering, and that really helped me come into my own. And so, did you find a lot of that in Wisconsin, or was it just kind of?
I found a little bit of community in Wisconsin. Not a lot of trans women, honestly. It's more of like how I guess like cis people think the LGBT community is. So like a lot of like, you know, like trans dudes and cis gay guys and stuff like that. So I didn't really find a lot of people to connect with. But I mean, in Chicago, there were like trans girls like literally everywhere. Like it was pretty awesome.
Can co-sign on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like Chicago. I'm driving out to Chicago for the second weekend in a row tomorrow, so
Oh, lucky.
looking forward to it. Um, so I mean, as far as your book goes, do you have any poems in your book that stick out strongly to you, like that are particularly powerful?
Yeah, probably my favorite poem in the entire book is the last one in the book. It's called Womanhood. And that was the one that I most like really go after, like my transition and how I felt growing up as a girl and all that. And I don't know, it's just like really the most powerful one. I think I actually read it last night as the first poem that I led off with. And, you know, it's like such a striking poem. I'll say, even as someone who wrote it, it's so striking that I had like church going like cis people like applauding me for it. So I was like, yeah, okay, score. This must actually be a good one.
Nice.
That's such a good feeling when you're like, oh, I got through to them. They get it.
Exactly. Hopefully that changes some minds.
Yeah. Man.
Cool. One of the things, I mean, forgive me, I don't know a ton about you, and I'm excited to get this opportunity to learn.
Oh, of
One of the
course.
things that we have been chatting about is you are a trans woman, you are a person of color, but you are also a big part of your intersectionality is Judaism or your Jewish heritage. And
Yes.
one of the big things that, well, it's not super big, but when you hear about people talking about intersectionality within the queer community, which you don't have happening as often as it needs to be happening, but little by little you're hearing more and more of it. The vast majority of that is the dynamic between what does the intersectionality of being a person of color and a trans woman look like.
Right.
Now, when you add a Jewish heritage into that, I mean, what changes? What unique things do you find when you have that kind of intersectionality in your life?
Definitely. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't really realize that anti-Semitism is still kind of like alive and strong and kicking in the world. I mean, I've encountered a lot of people who kind of think, oh yeah, anti-Semitism is just like a relic of the Holocaust, and you don't have to deal with that anymore. You guys are privileged and you're all white, and it's like a bounty of misconceptions. You know, a lot of people don't realize there are lots of Jews of color. I'm one of them. And then also for the longest time, you know, Ashkenazi Jews, which were the Jews that everyone thinks are white, for the longest time, they weren't considered white, you know. And also the fact that I feel like a lot of like leftist activists in the LGBT community aren't really well versed on like the nuances of like Jewish identity. So when they do actually talk about Jewish topics, I find they don't really seem to really know anything at all, and they're just kind of like talking out of their ass, probably something they've seen in a Tumblr post once or twice, and then they kind of like base their entire line of thinking based just on that. And you know, it's just it's a lot.
I'm pulled something from Vellum and Vinyl and just is just like, yeah, this is good enough.
Oh my god, don't even get me started on that site.
People do that with everything though these days, and it's terrible. Never get your world opinions from Tumblr or Facebook or anything like that.
Right. I feel like Tumblr is like a good place to like get your own ideas out there and kind of like mold them and interact with other people and like kind of start to form it. But like when you go on Tumblr exclusively just to get your own opinions, you're gonna
you can find any opinion out there on
Exactly.
Tumblr. You could. anything you want to find out there, like you want to do a quick Google search and find out like carrots cause cancer, you can find that. If you can want to find something that carrots prevent cancer, you can find that.
Yep, and it will have 7,000 reblogs, I'm sure, because Tumblr is a hellhole, honestly.
Oh, well,
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll definitely be readily admitting that I don't know a ton about what Jewish culture is like. I grew up in a very Christian household. Christianity was a huge part of my life, especially since coming out. And over the past 2 years, I've realized that just a lot of what I knew was complete and utter bullshit. And I have left. I have ran away from whatever the American established church system is, and kind of turned my back on religion altogether. So I don't really know. I mean, what are some of the biggest like misconceptions that you face?
I have realized, especially dealing with like a lot of leftists in the community, that they think that things like what's going on in Israel is like a black and white issue, and then you have to be for or against. And if you're a Jew, like you have to have an opinion on this, and you're basically not allowed into like a lot of like leftist circles unless you overwhelmingly have like this black and white opinion that they agree with. Otherwise, you're cast out. And, you know, a lot of anti-Semitism will just be excused because, you know, you didn't answer the right way. And then also a lot of like subtle anti-Semitism just gets kind of like glossed over because either people don't know, or when they are, you know, told that it's anti-Semitic, they'll be like, oh, you're a Zionist, so what does it mean anyways? Like, you're lying. I'm not being anti-Semitic. I love Jews. It's just, I don't know, it's very infuriating, and I deal with it like every day.
Yeah, I mean, there have been days where I've woken up and looked at your Twitter and I was just like, man, like Gentiles aren't the people who I thought I would be mad at today, but I'm really angry at them now. No, I mean, and just especially, you know, if for those of our listeners who haven't been following the Chicago Dyke March controversy, I believe what happened is somebody was out there with a rainbow flag with a Star of David on it, and they got kicked out for ostensibly sharing Zionist imagery. And this Star of David isn't really really isn't. I mean, it's a Jewish symbol, right? It's not.
Yeah, it's existed for so long. Like, it's definitely been around before Israel was made a state, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and EJ and I were chatting kind of before the show, and I think we kind of discussed things a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure if we know for sure. Judaism is very unique because it describes a major world religion, but it also describes a heritage as well.
Right.
Whereas, I mean, someone can be Jewish just like I can be Native American and Dutch, just like EJ can be. I actually don't know what you are, EJ, but
German and Polish.
Ah, okay.
Northwest
Chicagoan, basically.
Sounds about right, actually. Yeah, I've got quite a bit of German.
But yeah, like that's, I mean, you have a lot of different, I mean, I can't think of, I mean, because somebody can't have like Christian ethnicity, or Christian heritage, or anything like that. It's not something you usually think about very often, but I mean, Jewish can apply to a large number of different things. And so somebody can think that they understand what it is, where in reality, they only understand a tiny portion of what the whole picture looks like. And so I feel like there's a lot of people out there who know absolutely nothing, who think they know everything. And I think that's where we run into problems with cis people dealing with trans people.
Absolutely.
A lot of the times. And so I imagine that applies to Jewish culture as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's actually a really good comparison, actually.
Right on. Why do you think queer organizations have been so quick to fall in line with this anti-Zionist kind of anti-Semitic ideology over, especially after you saw people just fall in line. It was just upsetting. Like, why do you think it's? Why are people like this? I guess I don't know if that's.
Why does the world suck?
That's a good question. Honestly, I mean, this is just one Jew's opinion, but I kind of feel like leftist communities are really like they have certain hot topic issues where like a certain topic will make people fall in line. Absolutely, like Free Palestine is another thing. Like Palestine absolutely should not be subjected to the war crimes of Israel. I 100% believe that. But at the same time, it's like anytime you try to talk about Israel with any sort of like nuance or something like that, you're automatically shut down, and leftists kind of fall in line with that and end up shutting out like a lot of like Jewish people who just want to like say like, hey, there's like a lot of moving parts to this whole conversation. And just another part of it is just like honestly anti-Semitism too. Unfortunately, it's a really easy issue to get behind. And when you're anti-Semitic in the leftist community, like you can just shut someone down automatically by either saying, oh, well, you're white, so it doesn't matter. Like what you say doesn't matter. Or you're a Zionist, what you say doesn't matter. Right. It's really easy to just silence people like that.
Yeah, it's so nuts how much I've seen that happen for just the silencing of Jewish people. Is like, oh, you're white, it doesn't matter. Or even I got in an argument with somebody who said, oh well, trans people are just white people playing God with their identities. Just think that they can just like, I really.
Wow.
Why do I have to? Don't make me be against you. But I don't know. It's one of those things where sometimes I wish I could just like, I don't know, tag someone who knows better than me and just like.
Well, that's like the best way to shut someone down is just to assume that whatever cause you're passionate about is exclusively about white people for white people. That's the easiest way to shut someone down.
Really, really is. Especially on the left. It's
it sucks because I hate people who are on the right like so much. Like they want to kill me and destroy everything about me, and then I think I can find community with people on the left because I am a leftist. Like I'm a proud communist, but it doesn't matter because they hate me too. So I'm fucked either way.
Well, moving on, we could kind of move on to the news stuff.
Sure.
I think EJ might explode if we keep going.
That's a possibility.
And I like EJ. The show's gotten a little bit better with her on, so keep her around. So what's been going on in the news? The whole Breakfast Club shenanigan happened.
Oh, that's been another fun one.
It's so, if anybody's living under a rock, it's that Lil Duval was a guest on the NYC morning show, The Breakfast Club. And it was just a few days after Janet Mock had been on the show. And they were asking him about the transgender military ban. And he says just like, yo, if you're transgender and you hook up with me and I find out a few months that you're dead. I'm just pretty much cracked a joke about trans about killing trans women. And then somebody, I think Angela Yee on the show, held up a book with Janet Mock's picture on the cover. It's just like, well, this is tell me that's not praise. It's like he was just terrible about it, and he's dug his heels in.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get an actual quote, but it was basically like, if we sleep together and I find out you didn't use as flattering a terminology as the word trans, but if I find out you're trans, then you dead. You made me gay. You're gonna die. And I can't. It baffles me that us three and a vast majority of the people out there listening right now are part of a community where people can come out into public and say, I will kill you if I find out who you are. And they get away with that. Like, this guy has to deal with some social repercussions about this. If you say that about any other group of people, you go to jail. Like, you are, yeah, you're threatening the lives of a group of people. And it is just amazing to me that so many people get away with saying things like this on a massive scale, like on a I don't know how big the Breakfast Club show is, but
It's pretty big.
yeah.
It's like the only like radio show that I've really ever like paid attention to in like the last few years. Like the only one I really ever hear about, you know?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just it baffles me that this is something that can happen in today's culture. That you can say that you are going to kill anyone, any group of people, gay people, black people, white people, Republicans, Democrats, whatever. If you say that you're going to go out and kill somebody, that is something that is very much punishable, and definitely gets you in trouble with way more than just people on Facebook. And so I'm disgusted by it.
Yeah, I am too. It's just the whole thing. It's been like very triggering. It's been really tough to deal with. And I think for me, like one of the worst things that have happened because of this is that it's really opened up the conversation about whether we should disclose, you know, before sleeping with someone, whether we're trans or not. And this conversation is happening, and a lot of people that I've loved and respected have actually said, "Oh yeah, you have to, like you have a right to, like it's an ST or something."
Or else it justifies.
Yeah,
I mean,
got into the
false
discussion.
premise. You know, it's really like it's almost a straw man. Like I saw somebody post an article today and like saying it's just like, oh, I kind of disagree with this article that says you don't have to disclose if you don't want to, because like, oh, what if you want to have kids? Oh, what if you want this? And it's like, the premise being constructed is that trans women are concealing something, which is kind of, I mean,
even for the purpose of sexual gratification,
right? That, like, not that there's ever any detail that comes out every time a trans woman of color gets murdered. I mean, we're lucky to get their real name and gender. But that half the time it's going to be just some cis dude who, knew he was into trans women, got ejaculated, found out that he, sucked a cock and he liked it, and, got some boner's remorse or something, and then just like decided to go and stab him 119 times or whatever. I hate that the premise is out there, that the assumption is just like, oh, well, the issue here is disclosure. No, it's not.
It's regardless of whether or not it's a smart thing to do. Yeah, you should talk about you should talk about sexual history. You should talk about the last time you got tested, that kind of stuff. You should do a lot of things. A lot of people don't do that. It's not something that happens. And when that happens, it's not their fault for not talking about that. It's, you got into this. I mean, just because you find out that someone is trans, I don't know.
None of us are trying to get murdered out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's worth that.
Yeah.
And besides, like, these men all know who we are and what we are anyways. Like, they all do that. Like, we're not going around like purposely lying about something, concealing it, and then at the end there's this big plot twist like a 90s sitcom or something like that. Like, haha, I've got a dick instead, actually. How do you feel about that? That shit, it's not happening. It's not fucking real. Like, exactly what EJ said is that they have, boner's remorse and they feel guilty. Their masculinity is like threatened or whatever, so they decide to shoot our faces off.
Yeah.
I read a story, and forgive me if this is a little bit graphic, but I mean, they said in the story that three men wound up having sex with a trans woman, and it was anal and oral. And anytime they reached towards between her legs, she would say that, oh, she was on her period, and would swat their hands away. And because it was dark, they could never tell. And then when the lights came on and they found out, they freaked out, and all three of them went nuts. And it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that was the Gwen Arahu, I said her name wrong, Gwen Arahu, who, you know, her case was what sparked the original trans panic law in California. So that one is pretty well documented. But I mean,
that's I can't believe that story. That story is
yeah, I mean,
that story is bullshit, and it's people who
there to confirm it. So
yeah. But I mean, the three people doing that and not realizing it until much way afterwards, like an hour or two afterwards or whatever.
And I'm seeing people who are like, they're saying it's just like, oh, we have these lizard brains, you know, we have these fight or flight reactions. Like, fuck you for apologizing for murder. Like,
yeah.
Come on, man. Like, I saw videos, it's like, well, you know, people just like what they like. And it's just like, you know, sometimes you can't make people like each other by arguing. It's just like, did you lift that from a George Wallace speech? Like, what the hell? It's baffling the way that, I mean, I shouldn't say baffling, because yeah, I get that people will throw us under the bus any chance they get, but you know, it's just like, oh, I'm still gonna explode. I'm sorry.
You're gonna explode no matter what the topic is, I guess.
There's so much to be angry about.
What are some good things that have happened recently? There's got to be something out there.
Oh, what else has happened?
That's lovely.
I mean, I was pretty. Like, actually, you know, while we're still on the topic of the Breakfast Club, I had some the other day where I posted, you know, there was all this discussion. Somebody, after I posted a link to the to our Facebook page just about Sean King, who, you know, talked about trannies in a tweet, you know, 9 years ago, and you know, I posted about it, and somebody like got up and it's just like, you know, considering the amount of, we should really let the black community deal with trans misogyny internally, and you know, the given how much respect Black Lives Matter has for Sean King, I, you know, spit my water out at that point. As I've heard, they gave him his walking papers a while ago. But it's just,
and I know the guy that was doing that, and I'm real disappointed about it. I don't want to say who it was or anything about him, but we've met a few times. I've been very impressed with what he does with his activism and whatnot, but I find it's frustrating that somebody expects us to respect an individual who uses that kind of language, but we need to overlook that because he does so much for another interest group.
Yeah. I mean, if there was some trans activist who is, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of them who are racist assholes. I just can't come up with any names off the top of my head. Just like, I am happy to go yell about their nonsense, you know?
Dolly, do you have any? I mean, I don't know if you saw the post or know anything about it, but as far as, I mean, you are a trans woman and a person of color, someone who, I mean, belongs to both of these interest groups. I mean, what does that say to you?
Well, I believe that trans misogyny should be called out, you know, no matter who it is, no matter who's saying it, because it is it's an issue that affects all of us. It affects trans women. It affects, you know, men who are being kind of like stuck in like this rigid masculinity prison, and they're not allowed to be feminine or anything like that. You know, affects literally everyone. And I don't feel like that anyone should be not allowed to be talked to about their trans misogyny. Yeah. And it's like, honestly, like, I mean, if people within the Black community are not calling out Sean King about this, then it's the responsibility of other people, because it has to be talked about. It can't be swept under the rug, which unfortunately I feel like does happen with like a lot of like notable, Black activists about that, because when they fuck up on an issue that doesn't necessarily pertain to, Black issues, because everyone who's Black is cis, of course. Yeah, obviously, we're all cis. But yeah, it's like, if they mess up on an issue like that, no one really cares. And they don't really go after them very hard, and they'll criticize people who do go after them. And it's just, it becomes a whole mess, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I was trying to like kind of respond to this guy, I was trying to find, it's like, I know I've seen, Black women and Black women activists criticized Sean King in the past for just, the way he's treated his organizations and the way he's, stolen the work of Black women, things like that. But as I was searching, it's just like, I got all this like right-wing propaganda. It's just like, it's such a line to walk. It's just like, I'm just going to share like Facebook Live videos of Black women, just chewing him out. I'm just gonna be like, let's just signal boost, and just like, they're right. So it's almost an art when you have to call out somebody from another community. It's just like, let's let other people talk, and let's just raise voices instead of risking being thrown in with the alt-right garbage.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
One of the big issues that was pointed out was, and EJ, I don't think when we posted it, we realized, the tweet that we posted was from 2008. It's an old tweet. And I did some hunting around, and Sean King does not talk about trans issues very much. The few times that I have seen that I found him talking about trans issues was things like him saying in that tweet that, did I ever tell you the story about when me and my buddy stopped to spit game a couple of beautiful women and found out they were trannies? And then one post in 2016 where he's talking about transgendered people, and those are the only two things I can find. And that just, does the fact that it happened so long ago, does that diminish the fact that it needs to be called out?
To me, I want to hear people apologize. I don't like that people can get away with their behavior and just sweep it under the rug. It's like, hey, I'm an ally now. I just, all I want is for people to own their shit. And certainly there's a lot more problematic about him. I mean, last year he was kind of saying, it's just like, oh, well, this North Carolina boycott worked so well for trans people, and we got to adopt those kinds of tactics. It's like, did it work that great for us?
That case was just dropped.
Right. So, I don't know.
I don't even know what's going on with that case anymore.
I don't know. I haven't been following it.
I know. The Republican-sided government now like dropped the case, so I don't know. Is North Carolina going back to doing that, and it's just not on anybody's radar anymore?
I mean, they got their new governor, and there was some political maneuvering. I don't know. They screwed him over.
If you're in North Carolina, email in. We wanna hear about that.
What is Nebraska like in terms of that? Like, is that?
I haven't noticed any issues. I've never had anyone like say anything about me going to the bathroom. I mean, I guess I reasonably on most days, like conditionally, like pass assist. So I might not actually be the best person to talk to about that. But yeah, I haven't noticed any issues or anything.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things where I cling to Chicago because I know if nothing else, we're just like just infested with Democratic corruption that just makes sure that there's no like right-wing agenda that I hope can sweep in. I was just like, I'll stay safe under my, however many years of the Democratic machine kind of protecting me in my bubble. So.
That's why I'm hoping Detroit stays like that. So Detroit was one of the few Democratic areas in the elections. So as far as Michigan goes, I'm gonna cling to this city as long as that lasts.
Yeah, corruption's good for that at least.
Yeah, I've only been in Omaha since March, so I actually don't really know anything about the politics here. That's what happens when you're depressed. You don't read a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm familiar with that. It's hard to keep up with news and stuff.
Oh yeah, just occasionally shut it off and
Mhm.
like
That's why you get a co-host who's very opinionated.
I have opinions,
Exactly.
2 or 3 of them.
Is that it? Is that you only have 2 or 3 opinions? I don't believe that,
On
actually.
each particular issue.
Oh, okay.
2 or 3 million. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
So Dahlia, with your book coming out and everything, like what's the next step for you? What do you want to do with your life after this? You've got a book that has done great in the ratings as far as within the queer culture, literary culture. I mean, what's the next step for you?
You working on the follow-up? Yeah.
I am working on a follow-up, absolutely. The follow-up is entitled I Wish I Was Dead. So clearly I'm depressed.
I can relate.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure a lot of girls can really relate to exactly that kind of title.
The trans rallying cry.
The trans. Oh my God.
We're here. We're queer. We wish we were dead.
Honestly, I should just make the cover just like the trans flag. I mean, just really drive that point home. Like, I wish I was dead.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm writing that. I'm actually close to half done with it. Actually, I want it to be longer with Lemur. It's 30 poems in the book. I want this next one to be at least 50 is what I'm kind of shooting for, but don't quote me on that.
So at least 50, and how many edibles?
I might have to do 2 edibles, actually, to reach that.
Is Omaha good for that, or?
Actually, not really. I don't have a ton of connections, honestly. Chicago was better. I was high all the fucking time. But no, I'm working on that. That should be out within the next couple of months. That's going to be available on Amazon too. Be doing a huge, well, it's a huge for me media push for that.
Mhm.
I'm also little by little working on a novel of short stories as well. And eventually, big picture, I basically want to have like my own like media brand, like the St. Knives media brand. I'm a musician. I do modeling. I do makeup. I would like to get into film as well. I used to actually write spec scripts when I was in high school for fun because I was that kind of nerd. And yeah, I basically just want to get my hands on like every type of art form and just do everything, basically. Just be successful at everything.
Nice.
Thank you.
Now, is your brand going to include essentially just your work? Are you planning on opening up and trying to foster artistic creativity and other in the queer community with other people as well?
That's actually a really good question. Eventually, I would like to do that. That's probably a little bit further down the line once I've got, like more buzz about me and definitely more money for sure. I'd like to start my own publishing house and record label and actually gear it towards exclusively like queer artists just so that they have like another avenue to turn to, because I know when I realized I wanted to do poetry professionally, I realized there weren't really a lot of sources that catered exclusively to queer poets. I mean, there's like Topside Press and like what else is there, honestly. So I just want to have like be able to throw my hat in a ring and be able to help out, other girls like me too.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that would go a long ways towards helping people, because there is a lot of, and one of the things we talked about earlier, like when you come out, a lot of the taboos are lifted, but before then, so much of what queer expression is very much looked upon with disdain and avoidance. And so I think creating an environment where it is safe to express yourself in such ways it would go a long ways towards helping people. I'm excited to see what you do with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited too. I want to be able to have art that, people in the closet can like absorb themselves in and then kind of like realize, oh, hey, I'm queer too, So that would be like really important to me.
That'd be awesome.
It's so important to just like, I mean, to me, it's I've been real passionate about just like being able to consume more and more trans art, which is, you know, why I'm so happy we could have you on the show. It's just like to me, it's so important to like to our survival as a people. You know, if we can have this shared art, this shared like language, these share, you know, even when it goes down to just, you know, from, you know, poetry to film to writing to even just memes, you know, just this shared language that unites us as a people to, I don't know, it seems like we don't have that language as much out there, and it bums me out.
Yeah, we need more of it, especially because our artwork is going to outlive us. Like,
Yeah.
you know, my books are going to exist after I die, and you know, I actually like go into like a lot of my artistic work with that in mind.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Where did you come up with? Where did the title La Mer come from?
Lemur.
La Mer.
Lemur, honestly, well, I'm a Pisces, which is probably pretty illuminating to the whole thing. I've been obsessed with water as like an artistic point pretty much my entire life. The book I wrote before Lemur, which I don't like at all, most of the poems are about water, and I just kind of kept that theme going. And I had amazing artists in the Chicago queer community by the name of Hams Peeler. They actually designed that cover for me. I told them exactly what I was wanting, just like a water theme and lots of blue, and you know, they just really knocked it out of the park, and I'm super happy with it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful color. Now, is it? I mean, I guess we should say, for those of you who don't know, La Mer is French for the sea, like the water sea. So I don't think we said that. So be good.
Yep.
So the cover is, I mean, it's looking at, is it a mermaid?
It's not a mermaid. No, it's basically me. No, I wish I was a mermaid though. That would be sick.
I feel like I'm looking at scales, but I also see a butt. So.
Well, that works because I am a complete and total whore. So I mean, gotta get that across, right?
There's nothing wrong with being sex positive. That's fine.
That's a word for it.
I'm probably like the most sex positive ace you'll ever find, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, the cover is super important to me. I love it. I have no idea what I'm gonna do for my next cover, honestly. I mean, I wish I was dead is something that can go in like so many different directions, honestly.
Do a mermaid.
A mermaid, yeah.
Yeah.
A mermaid.
Oh.
I wish I was dead because I'm not a mermaid.
I swear to God, I've been going to do a voice therapy recently, and I went to like a group session where we all just kind of like did exercises, and just spontaneously in the first 5 minutes as we were just kind of chatting and waiting for it, just like the topic of the Little Mermaid came up, and it's just like, oh my God, this is, nobody seemed to realize how cliche that was. Like nobody, I was just like, is this really happening right now? Oh man, it was beautiful. Oh, we're all
that movie was so important to all of us, I feel like.
It's the in a world where we're starved of trans parables, that's as best as we're gonna get out of the out of cartoons in the early 90s.
You know, honestly, I'm really shocked that there's not more girls out there named Ariel. Like, there's 1,000,001 Alices.
Right.
Tons of them. Not as many Ariels, and I'm very surprised by that.
Yeah. I would have thought maybe there's not enough redheads. I don't know.
That, you know, that could be it, actually. But you know what? They've got wigs and hair dye for that. We can make this happen.
Yeah. Come on, wigs are not that.
Here with the pink dress as well. That looks hideous. I just the red hair and the pink dress. That's all I think of when I think of Little Mermaid.
I mostly think of like her like transitioning to having legs and thinking, you know what, I can make a metaphor out of this.
Yes. Oh yes, definitely.
oh yeah, look at this stuff, isn't that neat? It's just like, yeah, that's my Foot Locker full of, just like wigs I bought off buycostumes.com. Oh,
You like old pill bottles for estrogen.
oh yeah.
Oh, I've got that. I've got a box of old meds here. I've been stockpiling just in case.
I was trying like a year ago to write a piece that was based on the Cup song from Pitch Perfect and from before that from all that. And I was like,
Everything.
oh, I could do it with pill bottles. I just have like a bag of pill bottles for this project. Like, I'll figure out something to do it. I do bad art sometimes.
Well, when you get that done, I would be happy to sign you to my Saint Knives record label.
Right.
We can get this done.
You have that done, don't you, EJ? The mix with the Cup song?
I sample it, but I had a whole thing written out. It was just like, it was calling out, like, it was written to kind of like artistically call out one of my former roller derby leagues for gaslighting me into oblivion. So I thought it was pretty good, and then I sat on it too long, and now I don't like it as much. So. Art.
Yep. Well, Dolly, we got about 10-ish minutes left.
Cool.
Do you have your book handy? Do you want to?
Ooh.
Do you want to pick out a few of your favorite things and give people a sample?
Sure, I would love to do that.
That's great.
All right, well, I have it handy. And, since I was talking about it, I think I'm definitely going to read the poem Womanhood, because I feel like it's like probably the most important central piece to the whole thing. And wow, I really wish I had put page numbers in this fucking book. I don't know why I didn't do that. This was a grave mistake. Okay, I found it.
You said it was the last one, right?
Yeah, it's the last one. I found it.
The last page.
All right, so this poem is titled Womanhood. My womanhood was not given to me in my cradle, constantly hoisted upon me like a pacifier. My womanhood was not placed on my frail body, only baggy clothing of dulled colors. My womanhood visited me in a dream of bright colors and louder sounds, of whispered desires and quieter decisions. My womanhood was fought for, clawed for, hung within my reach, then yanked away on a whim, but I am still here. And that's that one.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, people snap at poetry things, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys can snap, because I actually can't snap.
Can't snap?
I can't. No, I don't know why.
Because the nails are...
It's not just the nails. Thank you for noticing them, by the way.
Beautiful nails. You have beautiful nails.
Thank you. No, I've just never been able to snap in my entire life. And I feel like I'm failing my race, actually, because I am so rhythmically challenged. I play basic guitar, and that's about it. I don't dance. I can't snap my fingers. I am an abomination.
I read yesterday that, like, I saw something. This is like, oh, snapping isn't the friction between your two fingers. It's your middle finger hitting your palm, and it's just like, oh, I didn't realize that.
I still can't do it, but I'm not going to waste time on the show trying to learn how to do that, because that would be obnoxious.
It's like a one-handed clap, but only more direct and.
I've got another one I would totally love to read.
I mean, you don't want to talk about the physics behind snapping anymore?
You know what? I don't know. Maybe when we're off the air, we can totally do that. That sounds like a great idea.
What's the next one you guys?
All right. The next one that I am reading is called At Your Best. And this one is just about how relationships and sex sucks, because they're awful, bad things that no one should ever experience. All right. You caress my face with caution. My lips are chapped and bleeding from saying your name endlessly. I am grateful. You have chosen me as if you are a goddess, and I am your nation. I murmur drunkenly. Your other hand between my thighs speaks in languages dead and gone, a tongue I can no longer abide. And that's that one.
Nice.
Thank you.
That was sad.
Everything I write is sad. Nothing I write is happy.
I mean, that one.
Have you been trans?
Yeah, we don't make happy art. It doesn't exist.
Oh,
Life is pain, Abby.
I mean, I was just saying it was sad. It wasn't a bad thing. It was beautiful. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Thank you. That one I'm really proud of. I don't know, it's just something about, especially like the last couple of lines. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, like if I was reading that in someone else's book, I'd be like, damn, that's fucking awesome. Like, I wrote that when I was high as shit, so you know, maybe there's something to my method.
That's so impressive. Like when I'm high, nothing's coming out here that makes sense.
No. When I'm high, I go to sleep, or I just like can't move.
I eat too much, and then I end up with a couple of Google Keep notes that don't make any sense in the morning. So
I'll write, I'll snack a lot, and then I'll sit there for like hours listening to music on my headphones, and just like my soul will leave my body.
Thanks.
bad, you know. That's if the method works, all for it. Oh,
Right.
I'm jealous. I would love to just get high out of my mind and
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, art.
Like anything involving me leaving my body would be welcome at very many times. So,
Same here.
no. We got one more, or
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can find one at random.
three things come in threes. So,
Yeah, I really should have put page numbers in here. I'm kind of the worst author in the world, actually. Okay, this one is kind of along the same lines. This one is kind of touching on, you know, like abuse that I've suffered in relationships. So that one's fun. All right, this one is called Rose. The lovers who abused me tried to rip out my roots in the dirt, deny me water from the skies, broke my branches when they grew, unruly. Even my seeds were withheld compassion. Still I rose. That's that one.
I like it.
Thank you.
I don't like it. It hits too close to home. I think it's absolutely beautiful and wonderful, but I don't like it.
I'm sorry, that's understandable. Honestly, like I majorly like have imposter syndrome, and I cannot believe that people like my stuff. Like,
It's rare that, I mean, I've not being into poetry or anything like that. It's astonishing how such few words on a page can hit so close to home, and I definitely feel that. I mean, and we've talked about past relationships on the show before, especially just a few weeks ago, and I just leafing through your book when I was hanging out at EJ's last weekend, and just hearing that now, like, so many parts of those three poems spoke to me in just very strong ways. And so I'm very, very excited to get a hold of the actual book and to read through it myself. Where is the best place that people can go to get the book?
Oh, Amazon.com. All you have to do is type in St. Knives. You may encounter some kitchen utensils that are branded after the New Orleans Saints football team, but you'll also find my book as well. And
your book comes up before the steak knives, so
amazing. I'm so glad.
NFL steak knives set of 4.
That must mean that people are looking for my book more than they're looking for steak knives. You know what? That's a fucking accomplishment.
Exactly, yeah. No, yeah, it's right at the top. Lamer, Lamer, by Saint Knives, Saint Knives. I am very, very excited to get a hold of this, and I think that people listening should go ahead and do that.
I think so too, because I love royalty money.
I think you should do it because I think that you are an absolute joy to have on the show, and
Oh, thank you.
your work is wonderful. So
I really appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you so much for coming on. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to head over and shoot an email to diaryofatranswoman@gmail.com. If you want to find us on Twitter, I am at AbbyGeek, even though I haven't updated my Twitter in a very long time. EJ, you are at?
I am at SheMX500.
And Dahlia?
St. Knives, and I tweet a lot, obnoxiously so, actually.
Okay.
It's all quality, though. Quality tweets.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Diary of a Trans Woman on Facebook is where you can find us here. If you want to help the show, 5-star reviews on whatever device you are using to listen to the show on iTunes or Google Play or Stitch or whatever. That goes a long ways towards helping the show. If you really want to help the show out and show your support, patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. We are doing awesome. We're working on getting those stickers made. The Slack channel is just awesome, and you should come and join us. Patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman to learn more. Artwork for the show is provided by Taylor Elaine Straw. Be sure to check out TaylorElainePhoto.com for more of her work. Music is Same Sex Mary. Check out more of their work at samesexmary.bandcamp.com. Thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to take care and have fun. Bye.
Bye.